Oh, scheduling. I haven't seen a booth that talks about scheduling. Let me stop in and check.
iPad, they could just even see their look ahead without having to touch anything. And
I
from
think scheduling is only as strong as whoever your user is, right? Whoever's building that schedule.
we need that building done by that date because we're supposed to start renting, and we need
Most projects kind of rely on each team's kind of skill level. So
we're making that commitment as a team that this is what we'll do. We've heard some good stories of contractors feeling more involved, and then you gave me that yes, we committed together, so let's.
you don't have to explain that to anybody, right? Scheduling is pretty much everything when it comes to a construction project.
We're getting good data. We're just like educating the AI and seeing what you could do with it, and then start launching it bit by bit. So I guess we could start.
Yeah,
Jerry, welcome, and thank you for taking the time to meet today. I'd love to start with you giving me a bit of an introduction on yourself, your role, and what you do for your company.
Yeah, no problem. So my name is Gerardo Huerta. I'm the Vice President of Construction for AMCAL General Contractors. The overall company is AMCAL, and we have a development side, construction side, property management side. And so we own, operate, build all of our projects. A few exceptions, but for the most part, that's kind of our structure. Yeah, we operate out of California for the past 46 years. And we also have a Texas division that we opened about 12 years ago. And so we operate out of Dallas, Texas. And we try to stay in the metro areas of Houston, Austin, and Dallas.
Nice. Yeah, that's the project we have nice pictures on. I remember that job site.
Yeah. Your team visited our project in Austin.
Yeah, that's
fun.
awesome. I was looking at your LinkedIn. I see you've been with AMCAL for about 19, 20 years. What got you into what got you into construction? Why construction? I always love to ask this question because there's often a fun story behind it.
Oh yeah, there's definitely a fun story behind mine. I definitely didn't expect to end up in construction. In high school, I wasn't going to go to college. That really wasn't my thing. 4 years, although I ended up going to 4 years and doing my bachelor's anyway. But I went to a tech school. I went to DeVry out of high school. I wanted 2 years, quick in and out, get a job, start working. That's what I wanted to do. So this is, I graduated in 97. So by 99, I was out in the workforce and I was working as a technician. And then a few months into it, 6 months or whatever, we had the dot-com burst, and all the tech jobs really just got very difficult. I was working, but I had to get a different job for a pharmaceutical company. And my job was to stand there and wait for the machine to break down while they were filling vials with like morphine and some really heavy duty, chemical or medicines. And so sometimes I'd stand there in a clean room with like a bunny suit, goggles, gloves, and I just stand there and wait for like 16 hours straight until something broke down. So I just couldn't handle it. I'm like, this is not for me. I can't sit around and do nothing. The pay was okay, but I knew I needed to get out of that. So my brother-in-law was actually working for a general contractor at the time, and he said, "Hey, listen, he was a laborer, and he said, you have an education, you speak, you're bilingual, you're going to get, very far in a company like this. Why don't you check it out?" I'm like, construction, honestly, growing up, construction kind of had like a negative connotation. Like it was like a job for immigrants to come in that didn't have, that had a language barrier, that didn't have skills, and just get out there and work, swing a hammer, right? So that's kind of that was my experience with construction. I'm like, I don't want to do that. Like I want to rise above that and do better. But boy, was I wrong. I mean, not only is that an amazing way to make a living, right? The trades, but also the flip side of it in the office. There's so many paths you could take professionally in the construction industry, from anywhere from architecture and design to the project management side of things, engineering. right? There's just so many ways that, and so I had no clue. I was kind of ignorant and young. So, but I'm glad I took the jump because I started discovering all these opportunities. And I did start as a laborer. My first day on the job was pushing a broom. So I'll never forget it. I was on on the job pushing a broom, and I'm just looking at myself, what did I do?
But it's like a rite of passage, right? I remember my dad's a builder, so I was working for he's a stonemason in France, working for his company. And when I started working younger, it's like, oh, give you some cash, come on the job. We need someone to mix concrete and help pour concrete and all that stuff. And it doesn't feel rewarding, but it feels like a rite of passage in order for you to, when you become into maybe a more management position, having been in that situation make you such a better manager because you know what it truly takes, and you've been there. And I always had this on my side, and I see that's for you too. Is you can now lead and plan projects by knowing, okay, I've been in there, I've had the broom, I've had the hammer, and a bit more what it would take, and you also get the respect from your teams because you've been in there.
Absolutely, and I think it's important to always remember, that those guys, what they do is super important, right, to what we do. We can have big flashy titles and feel important over here in the office, but without them, none of this gets built, right? None of this gets done. So it's a very good reminder to come from the very bottom, that every piece of it all the way through is so important and so critical. So it keeps you humble. It was a good way to kind of build my background and be exposed to so many different things. I have a lot of people to thank along the way too, that took the time to teach me, had patience with me, right? Because maybe I wasn't as patient, trying to figure things out. It was all new to me, but it's been a very rewarding career so far.
When did you start getting involved with the scheduling and planning in general? At what stages or what levels of your career were you getting more and more involved into that role?
I would say immediately. I mean, like I said, I started in the field, so right away they started to put me in jobs where the superintendent maybe was off on vacation, so they needed somebody to watch the job while he was out. So quote unquote, I was an assistant super, and I had a schedule what was going to happen for the next couple of weeks, right? So immediately I got thrown into it. I knew right away that, hey, this is something way above my head. I need to get some training, so I took classes at Cal Poly Pomona for master CPM scheduling.
Nice.
And yeah, so I mean, I had to learn this stuff. So right away I got exposed to it, and scheduling is a pretty cool thing, right? When you get down to the technical aspects of it, it can be some people's full-time position is just scheduling, right? So it can be a very detailed thing that you can get into, but
complex, yeah.
Yeah, but in the day-to-day running projects, you just don't have the time to spend hours and hours updating the schedule.
What were you using when you learned when you get your degree? Was it Microsoft Project that you mostly used to build? What did you use?
Yeah, most of the time it's been Microsoft Project. I don't think I've ever even opened Primavera.
Okay.
Obviously, I know that that's the very popular one that most schedulers like to use, but at all the companies I've ever worked at, Microsoft Project was kind of the standard that was purchased for the company.
And it was the same of course, at AMCAL before, meaning Outbuild. And I'm curious on how were your processes, before Outbuild time, on how you were managing schedules and managing the field, and what some of the challenges that you felt that pushed you to come, meet with Outbuild and have a conversation with Outbuild. I think we met at Groundbreak, right? Was
yes,
it?
I first got exposed to you guys at Groundbreak last year. Sorry about my phone, by the way. Maybe I'll disconnect it so we're not being.
Mine was ringing too on the side.
Yeah, I don't want to be. People will be looking for me, so I'll be out for a couple minutes while we're doing this interview. So yeah, I got introduced to Matt Davidson. Actually, he introduced me to Outbuild. Just kind of walking by your booth, it kind of intrigued me, right? Just kind of scheduling. I haven't seen a booth that talks about scheduling. Let me stop in and check. I think it's been something that we've struggled with in general. I think scheduling is only as strong as whoever your user is, right? Whoever's building that schedule. We don't have an in-house scheduler. So really each project was kind of dependent on either the project manager's level of skill or the superintendent. And so we wanted to find a way to kind of standardize it. We have used lookahead schedules pretty much my whole career, as far as I can remember. Superintendents would always generate those in Excel.
Yeah.
So that kind of resonated with me too, right? That Outbuild is built on that sort of thinking. But the big one was it doesn't connect to, like you have to make sure you have the right version that you're looking at, and then who's updating it, and does it have all the delays? So when I found out it was cloud-based, it talks to Procore, integrates with other aspects like RFIs, submittals, and you can tie all that stuff together. It really caught my attention.
Yeah, I've been it's funny how we talked to a lot of general contractors that are doing, or on developers like yourself, the Microsoft project and Excel, and it's been feels like such a tradition, right? It's like, oh, that's all we know, that's all it's been done, so
right.
We're okay. And when we start digging a bit more, we get to conversation like what you just said about, well, I have my project schedule there with my PM, but then my superintendent is doing something else, and then it doesn't track sometimes to one another, and then you don't have access to what the superintendent is doing. And being an owner developer, you even have a bit more of a requirement to, we need that building done by that date because we're supposed to start renting and we need to generate revenue from this. And our entire financial planning is based on that. So general contractors do have, of course, a requirement because you have a contract with an owner and maybe there's liquidated damages, but you probably feel that pain even more because you have people from your development team like, hey, we need to start renting this. We have people that probably have renting those places already.
Yeah. You can't go run and hide anywhere. We're right down the hall from each other, right? So that's definitely challenging. And like I said, most projects kind of rely on each team's kind of skill level. So trying to standardize and trying to use one tool where everybody that hops on a project knows where to go to see where the project is at all times is very, very helpful. We're getting our teams implemented now. It's been a few months. I would say there's still a ways to go as far as training, because it's very, very difficult to get people to use a new tool, especially scheduling. I mean, it's not an easy thing no matter what tool you're using. I think scheduling is just tough in general because it moves so much, right? Things change so rapidly in the field that it's kind of difficult to make these decisions, put them on paper. So it takes some discipline on how you're going to manage certain things, how you're going to, input that into the system so that everybody knows why you made the changes or why it looks a certain way. So yeah, we have a little ways to go, but I have a lot of hope that this platform can help us elevate our game, get better at scheduling and standardize it across the company like we did with, Procore, using one platform that everybody uses the same way. And it's easy to launch anywhere because it's cloud-based.
Do you find that trying to combine, scheduling and planning with Outbuild into one place is also forcing you to implement a new standard operating procedure and say, okay, we really need to think about this for what the best process is so that our team can just keep implementing in the future? We hear this often from our general contractors saying, or from our customers, it's a good opportunity for us to actually rebuild our best practices around scheduling and planning, because now at least it's in one place, and maybe improve on those practices, because companies don't typically change that every year or every 10
definitely.
years sometimes.
Definitely. We actually did do an in-house training. So we've used a scheduling consultant in the past. So they've helped us kind of, get a little bit better about managing schedules and the thought process behind how to, kind of segment off different portions of the build out in a way that kind of flows and is easier to follow. So that, they've helped us for several years now. And we did a training now it's been about 4 years. I think it was like 2020, where we did a presentation for the entire field staff where, scheduling is everything was our motto, or schedule drives everything. I'm sorry. And And so we did a pretty detailed dive into like procedure of how we, what we expect out of everybody, how we're going to, manage scheduling, how it's going to be dispersed to everybody. So we did that. And I think, this just kind of reminded us, oh, wow, we did this great training. Have we really followed up to make sure people are doing things the same way? Yeah, we got busy doing other things, not really. So this definitely has, made us kind of reanalyze that and make sure that if there are problems with our processes, we need to fix them. And but right now we're more in the exploratory phase of just the software itself, getting people to actually utilize it properly, commit, and then pump out all that useful information that comes out of it after you commit. So we're there. We're getting there, and I'm really proud of our teams because we've set up a weekly meeting with them where they come in and talk about their challenges of using the software. What are the questions they have? How are the ways we can manage delays or stuff like that we are tracking. So as a team, it kind of gives a platform for everybody to voice their concerns, questions, anything like that. So it's been really good for us too to kind of keep track and make sure we're not just throwing something at them, hoping that they're going to all of a sudden pick it up and use it, because that doesn't work, especially something.
Yeah, and it's a great approach also to get that feedback from your teams on, oh, maybe that functionality can help us do this, so this one can help us do that. That, like you say, the commit, right? Before it would have been maybe you're doing a planning session and you're sending it to the subcontractors, but maybe now by saying, oh, I'm going to hit commit, you guys are looking, we're making that commitment as a team that this is what we'll do. We've heard some good stories of trade contractors feeling more involved, and then you gave me that, yes, we committed together, so let's see now next week if we get to this. And it's not so much a matter of pointing the finger, is okay, what happened? It's okay, like stuff happens on a job site. That's the one thing we know. Stuff happens every day and we need to change things every day. And that's okay to be flexible. But if we could track the reasons why it's happening, maybe we could not have this happen again, and then improving our schedule time.
Right.
What else did you feel like you put in place to ensure successful transition? I know you're doing that weekly meeting. Is there anything else in the way you presented it to your team? You introduced the software to your team? Because, like anything, change is difficult. And when we talk about scheduling, it's always sensitive with some people because they've been doing Microsoft project forever. I'm curious to see what, processes or conversation you put in place to help.
Yeah, when we rolled it out, there was a pretty detailed email that went out to the group. Then we did a follow-up introduction, meeting to the software, where I kind of presented my case. I kind of have to make a case to people, right? It's like, this is why we need to do this. And it's important too that they understand the importance of making a decision like this. We don't take it lightly that we're just picking up another piece of software, right? As everybody knows, there's so many solutions out there, and we get people knocking on our door every day, right? Use our stuff, use this, oh, we offer this, we offer that. Everybody realizes that, obviously there comes a point where, well, we can't use every tool out there. There might be beautiful and great experiences online. Maybe it's a great presentation, but it just doesn't help me. It's not doing what I need.
So what were maybe your top 3 things that you told your team to say, this is why we need to implement this, because it's going to help you this way and that way? Because in the end, there needs to be some kind of a personal win for them too, saying, oh, that'll help me this way, and that's going to help the team that way. So I'm curious, like if you're okay to share those reasons on that email that you share with your team.
Well, I don't remember word for word what I said, but I think, like I said, I wanted them to understand the importance that we don't make a decision lightly to just implement a new software. I've gotten requests from some of our team members. Hey, I really need this. I really need that. They've gotten a lot of no's. So all of a sudden, when we start implementing something new, I wanted them to know why we think it's important. And so I went back to our motto, right? Schedule drives everything. The importance of scheduling in construction. I mean, everybody understands that, right? You don't have to explain that to anybody, right? Scheduling is pretty much everything when it comes to a construction project. So, I think I hope that resonated with the team. You know, it shows by the way they've actually jumped on the system and started using it. Now I see it in the weekly reports, right? I get the look ahead schedules from them in Outbuild. And I'm getting a lot of questions on Friday, right, when we have our meeting at the end of the week to kind of wrap it up. So yeah, it's been a good, fun process.
And it's always good because you have a manageable team, and I like that, you know, you've been involving everybody. Some teams that also don't, or contractors we talk to, you know, they skip on the why the change. And that hurts because when we come and train, we don't have we have a why. Most people change, but specific to your company is very important because most of your team members want to be team players. You want to participate. You want, like, if Jerry, you come in and say, this is why we want to implement this, because it's going to help everyone for project delays, coordinate better, saving us time, and so on. You buy into this. So we always try and make a point when we have a new customer getting set up to say, what was the reason? What is the true reason behind you're going to explain your teams why you made a change? Because that will be the difference between a successful rollout and then frustration from everybody if it's just, I'll just use another tool. Like, why are we doing this?
Yeah, and it's not an easy task, right? Everybody has different opinions and everybody has different preferences. You know, one guy likes Primavera, another guy likes MS Project, another, you know, there's all these reasons why people don't, you know, they want to stick to what they know. So it's always very difficult every time you're bringing something new. But again, we brought enough emphasis into the importance of having a tool that's the same across the board, that we can jump on every project and utilize, and any team member can look at the other team member's schedule and understand it and know where they're at. So you know, I think they see the value in it, and like I said, it just takes that effort, and it's not overnight. You know, it takes time. It takes time to get them to trial and error. You know, use it, make mistakes, get frustrated, come back. You know,
yeah,
and try all over again.
Absolutely. You touched on the Procore side. I know you guys have been with Procore for a little bit. You're going to ground break, so you're obviously interested in getting more out of Procore. What were some of the integrations that you feel like you're using the most, or that attracted you the most, as far as, you know, connecting your schedule to Procore?
Well, I think we always wanted to have schedules up in Procore, right? So because again, we use that as our home base for everything, right? So when you go to the home page, you want to be able to kind of see the job as a whole. And schedule was always missing, even though they do have a schedule tool there. We tried to use it, we tried to implement it, we didn't necessarily have success with it. So, you know, having something like Outbuild that talks to the system, you don't have to go back in and make changes in 2-3 different places. That was very intriguing to me. And then also, you know, tying submittals and things that have long lead times. That's part of the process. Like the submittal process is in Procore, and it ties back to the schedule. So, yeah, those tools were obviously what drew me to the platform.
How were you doing your procurement tracking before? Did you just add your long lead items in the schedule as an item, or did you ever have a separate Excel spreadsheet where you had all your procurement tracking log?
We did both. We would have long lead items kind of at the front of the schedule, making sure that we included them so that we start procurement, you know, in advance of when they're needed. But we also have a separate submittal log that just tracks everything. So we did it both ways, but you know, having it again in talking to each other is even better.
Yeah, that probably makes your Ps happy to not have to do the back and forth. You know, the look at the schedule, put it back in Excel, put it back in Procore, making sure everything matches, realizing you missed one, and then suddenly there's a delay on an important piece of equipment and needs to show up on the job site just because it's this. I mean, I had that pain directly. I spent 8 months on a job in LA just doing this, like on a bigger project. So I lived in an Excel spreadsheet doing this. So I was pretty excited myself when we released that functionality, saying, oh, maybe I wouldn't have to do all of that if we had that,
If we had that saved a lot of time.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
Let me see. I guess I had a generic question on your transition and what you're trying to get out of your team. So you've been implementing, with your PMs, with your supers, you committing the week. Have you been able to start involving the trade contractors more into those meetings and being able to share that plan with them? I'd love to hear some stories on if you felt ready to do so, and if you have done, what was the feedback from your trade contractors on the job?
I don't think my teams are ready yet.
Okay.
I think maybe a handful have reached out, but honestly, most the feedback I'm getting is they want to get a handle on it first.
Mm-hmm.
They're kind of nervous that the foreman for whatever trade is just not going to be savvy enough to get in there and do it. But that's more their fear. I think we need to give these guys a little more credit and let them give it a try. But I think once they get over their own fears and they get more comfortable using the tool, maybe they'll be more open to it. But yeah, I don't think we've had a lot of that happening yet.
Nice. I mean, it is a good thing in a way, because you don't have to, right? We have some teams that are really, it's up to that superintendent probably running the project to say, oh, I trust, maybe I have my MEP trades and my concrete crew and framing that, I want them at least to see it, create roadblocks, give me feedback in real time. Or if you don't, even just pulling it out on the TV when you're having a foreman's meeting and being able to have people show it and see
and
what
actually
you do.
that's what we talked about. We're getting large screens. Some of the jobs had them, some didn't. So we're trying to standardize that where we can put it up on the screen while we're having our weekly meeting with the subs. Here's the schedule, guys, and that's kind of that session where they can collaborate right then and there. Talk about what's going on that week, make adjustments because certain deliveries didn't arrive or whatever the case may be.
Nice.
So that's kind of the starting point, I think. First, let's all get familiar with this. Let's look at it together. Eventually, I'd love to have everybody, actually tagged in there, collaborating right in the system so that it just eliminates more rework.
And I mean, it's only going to go towards more technology. Now you feel that, most the general contractor teams have iPads, they have computers, they have everything, and it's starting to trickle down
definitely
more and more to the subcontractors. And with the iPad, they could just even see their look ahead without having to touch anything. And from home, you'll be able to see your plan, maybe call Jerry and say, hey, that might not work, I'm seeing a problem here. But the whole point is, I think getting them at the table, you'll start getting more engagement, because I did suffer from concrete, and even within the same GC, you're being told what to do, even if you're being hired to do the job. And it can be frustrating for subcontractors, because they'll probably just nod at you and say, yeah, I'll do it your way, and do what they want anyway. So I'm hoping you start to see more of those conversation and feedback and building that trust with your subcontractors. That's really what Outbuild is about, and that look ahead piece.
Yeah. Two things on that. I mean, we try to get feedback from the trades early on, to make sure that actually what they're planning or what they're envisioning the schedule to be for the project actually matches with what we projected, right? Because I think a lot of people forget that. At least I've seen it in the past where oh man, this guy's got a great price. We have to accept his bid, but then he comes out with half the crew that you expected, and you're like, this isn't going to meet my schedule. So we asked for the trades schedules early on, especially the large trades, concrete, framing, right? All these big trades that kind of drive your schedule. We asked for that feedback early on. So we're already incorporating that into our master schedule so that we don't have these hiccups, right? So that's one. And then two, some of these jobs that we started on Outbuild were halfway into the job already. So kind of transitioning from whatever they were doing for 12 months or whatever, now all of a sudden switching to this system, that was a bit of a challenge, right? So kicking one off from day one with Outbuild is going to have a different outcome, I believe. So we actually just did that in April. So we just kicked off a job. And so they started from day one in Outbuild, right? So I'm hoping that job is going to have a better trajectory as far as being able to implement it to the trades. Everybody sees it from day one. They expect to see it. They can contribute, see it up on the big screen, eventually log in and actually input and do what they need to do.
That's awesome. The big screen, we've heard of another team that I was talking to last week. They just put the roadblocks log in one of the TVs all day, and then the entire team just looks at this because they got to a point where they give access to their subcontractors in the iPad to create roadblocks. So they'll just see them pop up on the screen. They're like, oh, there's something created by the concrete crew. We need to take care of this because he's giving us 3 days to do that. So it's interesting to start seeing that, where it's more so subcontractors feel comfortable to say, I have a problem, and that's okay because there's stuff going on every day. Then sometimes keeping it for themselves and trying to figure it out on their own, and then comes the day off and you have to resequence everything.
Yeah.
Awesome. And maybe as a final question, you've been exposed to Outbuild now. What do you think scheduling and planning is going? What do you think should be the next great advancement as far as the tech is going, or what are you hoping to see as far as technology evolving?
Just in general?
Yeah.
AI. I'm very excited about AI, as most people are. I mean, it's just amazing what can be done with AI. So I think I'm very excited to see what that's going to bring, right? I think it's going to be interesting with all the historical database that general contractors have, right? Of all the completed projects and all the problems and RFIs and change orders and costs. For a robot to kind of process that and spit out answers for you and say, hey, here's your scope, here's this, here's that. I think that's going to be incredible. Can't wait to see that happen.
We might be working on a few things there. So I'm excited that you're saying this because it's inevitable. We have to get to build something there. And I think what there's a lot of things you could do. You could do quality controls and schedule and chat box to help and things like this. What we're trying to focus our efforts on is going to be on the look ahead side of it, and maybe recommending sequence of tasks based on a certain activity. Hey, we're doing MEP overhead for 20 days. Well, based on all the other schedule, this is what you should include in your look ahead, so that the superintendents could just plan a little faster. And then, don't forget maybe that critical inspection of that task that they might have if they're going a little fast. But there's so much you could do in it. We've been brainstorming with the team on what do you start with. We're lucky because we're getting now thousands and thousands of job sites running Outbuild, so we're getting good data. We're just like educating the AI and seeing what you could do with it, and then start launching it bit by bit. But that's exciting.
Yeah, it's very exciting. I think it's going to bring a lot of advancements. Make things more efficient. Hopefully, costs coming down. It'll make everything better.
Yeah, and I mean, and it's all about this, right? It's time and rework and delays. It all ties to cost.
By the way, I'm not afraid of AI taking jobs.
I mean, you'll still need someone to build in a job site, but if you could have an AI telling you, oh, the last 10 jobs your company did at that stage, you had those 10 problems, maybe check them out.
Yeah, exactly.
That's, you're only human. And that's the side of being human that technology helps, is like same with roadblocks or sharing information. If it falls on your superintendents to be the only person that could do that, it's a lot of work. And now if you have a tool where people could get the information they need in real time, well, just educate them to find that, just like you do with Procore, right? You have your subcontractors have access to drawings and they could look at stuff and see RFIs and everything. And that's probably why you implemented Procore too, so you didn't have your superintendents having to print stuff on a piece of paper and it was just just living in the office.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, I mean, technology has been great. I mean, in the last maybe 10 years, it's just been a huge shift in the construction industry, because I think we've been the slowest to adopt technology, right? So it's nice to see that finally we're embracing it, and it's picking up, tremendous amount of steam. So yeah, I'm excited about companies like Outbuild and others that are out there trailblazing and doing some amazing stuff.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Jerry, for your time here. I could stop the